Goldman Sachs, false flag terror attacks, Bill Gates, Henry Kissinger, New World Order mind control, Bank of America stealing homes with cut and paste mortgage loans, police, state, taser guns, FEMA camps, nowhere to run, Monsanto rules the food supply while Big Pharma dopes your mind. Prison system, puppeteers, foundations, fund the fears, fund the evil through the years. The world's not as it appears. CIA smuggles drugs while Wachovia and Wells Fargo launder them, then gave the proceeds to the owners of the Federal Reserve Bank. Now the IRS takes money out of every single check. Money they created out of thin air and leave you with debt. They want to make you a serf, a slave to their demand. They want to take your life in every way they can. Fluoride, GMO, vaccines, chemtrails, United Nations genocide. The world they show us is not real. This is how they kill and steal. Rothschild, Bundy, Rockefeller, Club of Rome. On the Georgia Guide, so it's written in stone.
A part of that plan, of course, is to induce the gradual surrender of American sovereignty, piece by piece and step by step, to various international organizations, of which the United Nations is the outstanding but far from the only example.
We are Americans, part of something larger than ourselves. For 2 centuries, we've done the hard work of freedom, and tonight, we lead the world in facing down the threat to decency and humanity. What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law.
The plan as outlined to me was to form an organization of veterans, to use as a bluff, or as a club at least, to intimidate the government. I appeared before the Congressional Committee, the highest representation of the American people, under subpoena to tell what I knew of activities which I believe might lead to an attempt to set up a fascist dictatorship. The upshot of the whole thing was that I was supposed to lead an organization of 500,000 men, which would be able to take over the functions of government.
Cut through the matrix, awaken to the lies. Do not be hypnotized. We are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Countless people will hate the New World Order and will die protesting against it. H.G. Wells. Good evening, everybody. This is Howard Nema, and you're watching Truth Talk News on truthbroadcastnetwork.com. Bill Cooper. What can I say about Bill Cooper? Well, last night, I had Barbara Hartwell on, and got some commentary about people that didn't understand how important it is. Now, again, I came from the same school of not attacking people in the truth movement. However, if I am attacked for speaking the truth, how can I not fight back by attacking those that are seeking to conform the truth to certain standards? And this is unacceptable. I take Bill Cooper's torch. I truly take his torch. as many patriots do. And there is nothing that will stop me from exposing people who are not speaking the truth. 99% truth is a lie. 99.5, like ivory, is a lie. It's not pure. Truth is pure. And this journey that I've embarked on has gotten to be way, way more insane than I've ever anticipated. The depths of the truth and those that are fighting to control it know no end. So for those that are unaware, Milton William Cooper, was murdered because he spoke the truth, the real truth. And he was a threat because he knew where we were moving as a nation to where we are today. Where are we today? Well, wars, endless wars, they consistently, conflict stirred up by all sorts of incredible amounts of collusion. I've gone over this over and over again with many works. The governments of these countries, they, like Libya, okay, are now run by the New World Order minions. Their central bank is there. People are collectivists. They are intent on controlling all aspects of human life. Bill Cooper knew this. And as a true patriot and as a true truth seeker, when he realized that maybe many of his theories regarding extraterrestrials were government based, as far as secret projects, black ops, and other clandestine projects, when he realized this, he came out and said, "Listen, I might have been wrong about this." And he wasn't perfect. I mean, no, he's human. And there are literally demonic elements here and satanic elements in this whole thing. It is a battle between good and evil. Precisely on target, clearly frightens me with the intensity of things that have come to pass. If you've ever read The Stand and Captain Trips and Firestarter with the Lot 6, which was used, and they had this telekinesis ability to speak to each other, telekinetic ability, and also to understand one another, I should say, as well. And that Drew Barrymore in the movie, at least. I read the book, of course. It was a great book. In fact, that movie was pretty close to the book. And she was, of course, able to create fires. Various, and it was called The Shop. Instead of the CIA, it was called The Shop. So, I don't know. To me, lately, in my revelations, I don't know. Just, I don't know if he's giving warnings, or he's, using biblical perspectives, of course, like with The Stand. But digressing. But it's really not a big digression, because I'm sure Bill Cooper would have a lot to say about Stephen King. And I read most of his books until, I guess, the early 90s, and that's when I stopped reading his work. I've read all of his books up until then. In fact, I considered him one of my favorite writers at one time. I guess I still have to, to some degree. But, again, it goes back to truth and understanding. What does it mean if you are causing hysteria? What does that mean? As opposed to trying to call for calm and peace and good thoughts and rational thinking. This is the difference between the COINTELPRO and the truth on every level, not just with Bill Cooper and, well, for the millennium, or yesterday when we played the segment here on Truth Talk News of 9/11 as it happened. And I don't know, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about Bill. I've been thinking about how a lot of people who are really truth seekers and truth fighters and fighters for God's God-given inalienable rights, and the truth is that our country has been usurped by evil. I mean, real evil. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, biblical evil, that kind of stuff. And that people that have and broken down and stripped of all of their material wealth, and stripped of all of their dignity, because they speak the truth. Many people, and I will not name names, but it infuriates me. Bill Cooper was a victim of this. He paid with his life. A man who had an artificial leg supposedly ran back to his house to get a gun, in the bullshit story that the sheriff's department gave about his death. They murdered him, and they wrote up some bullshit report. And that infuriates me. Now, tomorrow on Truth Talk News, I was intending to get back to news. There's a lot of news. Pam Suggs at UnitedTruthSeekers.com has been plastering my page with great information that I have to get out, and I will tomorrow. But tonight, it's about Bill Cooper. And thank you, Pam. Please keep sharing it. I will, everything you put on my page today, I'm going to talk about tomorrow night and Monday as well, that you put on there. Anyway, Bill was a unique individual. Again, he was a intelligence officer with the Navy for the better part of almost 3 decades. And he had seen a few things that were strange. For example, he saw a craft go directly in the water and not make a splash, and went down and actually appeared to come up from the water, from under the earth. Portals, possibly, yes, portals. I know this gets deep, but again, it was a part of Bill Cooper's understanding. It was an experience that he had. Barbara Hart. Pine Bush, New York. And we've talked about that on air, and we've talked about it privately. Bill was a true patriot, and he was co-opted by these COINTELPRO kingpins, these shills, these people, the controllers. At the time, of course, it really was Ted Gunderson, and he was pulling the strings. Brought Alex Jones in and they propped him up. I mean, so deceived by Alex Jones. And I don't want to focus on this, as I mentioned, on a post to answer some people that were posting about it. I'm not attacking Alex Jones. I'm very disappointed with Alex Jones. And I'm exposing Alex Jones, because there's so much going on, and more things that I've learned, that it's a shame. It really is. And by understanding how William Cooper had exposed Alex, and then now he's gone and he just took the torch, right? Alex took the torch. I'm very upset. I really am. I mean, I'm just upset that Bill was killed because he owed the criminal IRS. That was one issue, but then he had another issue with the sheriff's department. They set him up. My heart bleeds for him and all who've been suffering because of the evil in the truth community. You know, you have a country that has been hijacked by criminal bankers you look up to, people that you care about, people that you thought were speaking the truth, who are liars. That's the truth. And people like Bill Cooper are murdered, or people like Alex Jones says, I don't know why they haven't killed me, where he warns everybody before they kill him, like the DC Madam and Gary and Gary Webb. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't do this for any reason other than truth. Because this world has been manipulated by evil for too long. And the people must know. People must know. So I don't care what you do to me, how you try to attack me, because you really can't. You really can't. Prove a lie, because a lie is just that. I do this not for any other reason than to explain what I've learned and to share the truth with everybody. I'm a musician. I have goals in my trade. I have other things that I'm doing. I have a life. I have a family. This truth is not about money. This truth, the time I spend, I would have to say conservatively speaking, on a lackluster week or a lackadaisical week where I'm sort of lazy. I don't know, 20 hours working on this information, researching it. It's part of my life. I can't even quantify it in time. But I do it not for money. I do it not for recognition. I do it not for anything. I call the show Truth Talk News. It's not about Howard Nema. Howard Nema is a guitar player, and Howard Nema has a band called As Your Soul, and I hope you recognize that. But that's not why I'm doing truth. You think I got into the truth business to sell As Your Soul? I mean, that's insane. No, As Your Soul, which was just a regular band that had all these different type of tunes, started to say, well, let's take a move towards truth and write music for truth. So As Your Soul is now spreading truth in that format. That's my life. That's my work, and I intend to bring it as far as I can take it. But we're talking about Bill Cooper, not me. But Bill is probably the most important community in the last 50 years, 40 years, whatever it is. He created tapes, audio tapes, thousands of tapes, sent them all over the place. There was no internet. At his own cost, he published books. He used all his resources. It was never about money for Bill Cooper, and it's Never been about money, and it never will be about money for me either. Of course, you have to live, feed your family, but I'm not going to feed my family because I'm selling products that are geared towards or owned by the very companies that I am fighting against, having pharmaceutical backing. Need I go on? Anyhow, Bill Cooper was probably my favorite writer as well. I mean, I think the way he wrote was interesting. I have his book right here, and I will show it. It is Behold the Pale Horse. And Behold the Pale Horse was written or published in 1991, and it's dedicated to his children, Jenny, Tony, Jessica, and little Dorothy. And he stated, "I love you every moment of every day." And I tell you that this, to this day, really still it's like a very emotional thing when I talk about Bill. I can't really talk about Bill too much, because he was just somebody who understood what was going on and was fighting against it, against evil and tyranny. And I tell you, these bastards killed him. If Bill Cooper had lived, the last 20 years would have been a lot different. I'll just say that. I'll just leave it at that. The last 10 years, actually. He's been gone 12 years. 12 years he's gone. Well, obviously you know my feelings on Bill, and what I'm going to do is again play some things that were really important to me about Bill and what he and why I'm doing this. I weep for my country. I weep for my friends who are targeted by evil. And evil, the New World Order, killed Bill Cooper. And I will never stop fighting against the New World Order and the true evil. I have no quarter for these bastards. And neither should you. And here's Bill Cooper.
What about the time he cursed the fig tree? You know, pious Christians sometimes make me very angry. They don't even know Christianity. They don't know the man they're following. He was a revolutionary. He was a dangerous man. And by God, so am I. And so should you be. This country was founded by dangerous men. Amen. And the moment the people in this country cease to be dangerous men, it's going to be the day we cease to have a country. Their whole goal with this philosophy is to teach all men and women that the only end of life is to seek the utmost pleasure and happiness that you can get out of it, because when you die, there's nothing else. That's what they teach. That's what they want you to be. They don't want laws against sexual promiscuity. That's why they don't want families. That's why they don't want marriage. That's why they encourage homosexuality. There's a method to their madness. There's really not much method to yours, because you're operating from a place of ignorance. And until you change that, you're going to be bumbling around, bumping into each other, saying and doing the wrong things, not understanding the nature of your enemy. And if you don't understand the nature of your enemy and the weapons they use, you cannot fight that enemy. You can't fight the battle. You shouldn't even be on the battlefield. That's why you're losing the war. And don't tell me you're not, because I'm in a place of great knowledge about who's winning and who's losing this war. And I can assure you, you're losing the war. Doesn't mean it can't be turned around. But it'll never be turned around until you learn what you need to know. You don't even recognize half the weapons that they use against you. And some of them seem so insignificant that you don't even try. They want to create a world where everybody is happy all the time, doing all of the things that, if you're from a good religious upbringing, is wrong to do. If you're not from a religious upbringing, but you have a good brain and you understand the purpose of morals and ethics, it's still the wrong thing to do. If you're a thinking person. And then the priests had an army. Oh boy, weren't they happy with that? Their whole purpose throughout history has been to teach a small number of people how to become adept at controlling everyone else and presenting their societies as desirable to the profane, so that you'll go knock on the door and say, hey, can I be a member and be initiated, with the promise of learning some great secret. What is that secret? The secret is what I have just told you this morning. The secret is how to control everybody else. And you never understand how to control everybody else until you get to the top of this pyramid of initiation. Most people never make it past the third step. All above that are carefully chosen and nurtured and taught. And Americans for all these years have been looking around for the enemy. They've never been able to find an enemy. So those who control them were able to control them even better by giving them an enemy. That's what Stalin and Churchill and Roosevelt determined at Yalta. Who was going to be the enemy post-war? Turned out to be Stalin. And there was going to be this phony Cold War so that the population would never discover the real enemy. And I'm talking about the population of the Soviet Union as well as the rest of the world. You see, the enemy has always been here. It's your uncle, your aunt, your father, your mother, your brother, your sister, your nephew, your nieces, who belong to the fraternal orders collectively known as the mysteries. The very highest degrees of which, combined together, make up a secret order known as the Illuminati. Their goal is to destroy all existing religions save theirs, all existing governments save theirs, and shackle the mob in a system of eternal oppressive debt chained to a computer for the rest of their life, in a propagandized world to make them believe that they are happy in this system. Now, do you think they're succeeding? Haven't I described to you just now exactly what is going on in the world today? Yes, they're succeeding. They're succeeding because the American people don't understand their enemy. They don't even know what's happening. People were extolling the virtues of Pat Buchanan and actually considering voting for that man for president, and he sent them all a postcard. And on the front of that postcard, he identified himself as a high priest of the mysteries. because on the front of his Christmas cards that he sent to all of his followers was the penis of Osiris, the phallus, the obelisk, with a nice red bow tied around the base which represented the testes. You know what he was saying to you? Are there any children in here? He was saying, he was laughing at you. And so was every other member of the Illuminati. He was a highly degreed member of the sovereign and military order of the Knights of Malta, which was taken over in the Peasants' Revolt in England by the Knights Templars, who had sworn revenge upon the old Hospitallers of St. John's, which later became the Knights of Malta because of their role in the suppression of the Templars. How many of you watch Trinity Network? How many of you watch Pat Robertson? Have you ever seen the cross in the crown? Do you know what that means? It's the symbol of the Templars. The Knights Templar. It is the symbol of the unification of the church and the government over the people. Is that what you want? Every time any church gets control of government, the people suffer. It has always happened. That's why our founding fathers established a country where that was not supposed to happen, where everybody was free to worship at the altar of their choice. And if you think they were all of one mind, you better think again. How many religions of the Protestant group do you think existed in this country when our founding fathers put together the Constitution? Over 1,500 different groups, all claiming they were right, teaching a different dogma, quoting scripture to justify what they said, and everybody else was going to hell. So don't give me this Christian nation bullshit, because that's what it is. This nation reflected Christian values because the people who made up the government in the early days were Christian, but none of them agreed with each other, and they still don't today. They very seldom ever have. What do you mean by Christian? Seventh-day Adventist? Branch Davidian? Need to do some serious evaluating, some very serious checking out of agendas. You really want to take over the government and make it a theocracy? Because I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen if you do that. You're going to burn people at the stake who disagree with you. And if that happens, I'm going to have to take up arms all over again. And so will many of you, because you're going to be persecuted. You see? Because whichever one controls the government, you're going to have to conform to that teaching, and if you don't believe in it, you're a heretic. Do you understand what I'm talking about? What is our common bond truly? Freedom. Freedom. Without freedom, you can't be a Christian no matter what denomination you belong to. You can't be a Buddhist. You can't own a donut shop. You can't drive from here to Oregon. You can't be an American, because that's what it's all about, and that's the only thing that it's all about. Nothing else. Nothing else. It's about freedom. Freedom.
Yes, it is about freedom.
One of the things that makes everybody wonder why Bill's life was snuffed out in 2001 was because in June of that year, Osama bin Laden, who was a relative unknown at that time, Bill had been following the news and found a lot of curiosities and went on the air predicting that there would be a major attack in the United States and that it would be blamed on Osama bin Laden, but he was literally the scapegoat that was being used, not truly behind the attacks. So that, I mean, just a few months before the events of September 11th, and then, of course, Bill's life cut short shortly thereafter.
The largest intelligence apparatus in the world with the biggest budget in the history of the world has been looking for Osama bin Laden for years and years and years and can't find him. Some doofus jerk-off reporter with a camera crew waltzes right into his hideout and interviews him. So why do all these fools believe this charade? That a CNN reporter and his little camera crew can do what all the money and all the assets and all the eavesdropping and all the intelligence and all the satellites and all the undercover operatives in the world can never do. It's because they're not trying. They don't want to. Osama bin Laden is their creation, and he is serving them well.
His name is Tim
This is
Osman.
some kind of incredible joke.
He was created
People are so stupid they fall for
with
this.
Al-Qaeda
And now we're being bombarded
by
with
Zbigniew
messages that
Brzezinski
Osama bin Laden is planning to
CFR.
attack the United States of America and Israel. Let me tell you something. If he's an enemy of Israel and the Mossad can't find him, then this thing is the biggest joke that you ever heard of in your life. And I'm telling you, be prepared for a major attack. But it won't be Osama bin Laden. It will be those behind the New World Order who once again want to take the guns and the freedom away from the American people, because we're the only ones left in the world who can oppose the destruction of freedom in the world and then the implementation of a one-world totalitarian socialist government, and that is the goal. And whatever is going to happen that they're going to blame on Osama bin Laden, don't you even believe it. Another social illusion, social engineering project to change the minds and the attitudes and the beliefs of the people of the world, and especially the United States, to bring about one world socialist totalitarian government. I wonder what Osama bin Laden's targets are supposed to be. And if they don't, if this doesn't materialize in the next 2 or 3 weeks, it will eventually materialize, because they haven't succeeded in getting the guns out of the hands of the American people, nor have they succeeded in taking our freedoms away. In fact, there's been a great awakening in this country and a big backlash against these Marxist, communist, puke-faced, lying, subversive, Nazi, jackbooted Gestapo thugs that is gaining momentum. And so I can tell you with a certainty, they must do something terrible in order to stop this backlash and regain the sympathy of the mass herds of sheeple out there. And supposedly we're not the only nation searching for Osama bin Laden. So the vast economic resources, the vast technological resources, the vast personnel resources, the vast networks and intricate web spun over all these years by the CIA, the FBI, and the NSA can't find Osama bin Laden, but CNN can? Bullshit. What a crying shame. How in the world could this country of all nations breed such a dumbed down, unthinking, illiterate, uneducated, stupid, ignorant population?
It is unbelievable. I mean, it really is unbelievable. People can be so stupid. I don't even know what to say about it. But yes, in fact, I didn't plan on this, but since Bill brought it up, let's do Peter Arnett interviews Osama. Oh, I was going to say Obama. I'm sorry. Obama bin Laden. Peter Arnett interviews Osama bin Laden. Let's see if this is actually on YouTube. It wouldn't surprise me. Osama bin Laden gives ABC and CNN interviews while, here we go. You see, again, people, I love this. You motherfuckers in the New World Order, you're going to get...
A year ago, bin Laden took
Here
refuge
it
here in
is.
Afghanistan.
Oh, I love it. And I'm getting good at it. I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to focus on giving you better broadcasts, quality information, truth. And let me tell you, this is going to be unfucking believable. Now, the CIA, NSA, and everybody, just like Bill Cooper said, were looking for Osama. It's perfect. It's just the end, just enough. This will give me 2 minutes at the end of the show to introduce Harry Link with Death to the New World Order at 10 p.m. here on truthbroadcastnetwork.com. So here we go. This is Peter Arnett and the obviously staged, COINTELPRO typical hijinks going on.
A year ago, bin Laden took refuge here in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is perhaps the only country in the world that will accept him.
No, it's the only country in the world that has heroin that they wanted to, get all this poppy and get the soldiers to, guard it, right? Remember while they were bringing it out and the CIA was bringing tons of heroin, and then all of a sudden after this war in America, there was a heroin epidemic here in my town in Torrington, Connecticut, where I live. I am friends with several police officers because they are not our enemy. Much to the COINTELPRO shit, they're really not. They're good people. They are not against us for the most part. Many of them are awake, stuck in their situations. I have a couple of good friends here on the Torrington force that I know, people. No names. And these poor guys, unfortunately, probably get grilled for me saying this because of the COINTELPRO psychopaths that are out there. But we have this police state rising, and it's rising because of all of these outside forces, like these people that are eating these bath salts and becoming chewing people's faces. I mean, come on. And it happens everywhere. Other reactions to these things, these really bad things they're doing to us, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. But look at the truth here. And in the time we have left, I won't interrupt. I'll give now 1 minute of commentary. And then, of course, at 10 p.m., Death to the New World Order with Harry Link on truthbroadcastnetwork.com. Here we go.
Our quest to meet bin Laden begins in Peshawar, Pakistan, and then across the Khyber Pass to Jalalabad, Afghanistan, where we wait for several days. Finally, bin Laden's media advisor arrives. We are allowed to take our lights and sound equipment, but not our camera. There have been assassination attempts against bin Laden, and his security force worries our camera might contain a tracking device that would give away his location. The interview will be conducted with their camera. As best as we can reconstruct it, this is the route that we took to meet bin Laden. We are put in a minivan with curtained windows and drive west. As night falls, we move to a four-wheel drive vehicle that makes its way up a rough mountain path past checkpoints.
By the way, I can't be remiss to mention, and I'm sorry, that in 1998, and further on, you had the coal and all these other bombings and stuff, and the government was like, hey, let him do it. Yeah, let him do it. We're just simmering the pot. In other words, they're heating up the New World Order pot. The stew of evil heating up. I'm sorry, I just couldn't resist.
Manned by heavily armed men. We are searched and electronically scanned to ensure that we're not carrying a tracking device. About 5,000 feet up is a small hut. We are allowed about an hour and a half with bin Laden. We have submitted questions in advance. He agrees to answer most of them, but does not allow follow-up questions. Mr. bin Laden, you have declared a jihad against the United States. Can you tell us why?
The U.S. government has committed acts that are extremely unjust, hideous, and criminal through its support of the Israeli occupation of Palestine. And we believe the U.S. is directly responsible for those killed in Palestine, Lebanon, and Iraq. Due to its subordination to the Jews, the arrogance of the United States regime has reached the point that they occupied Arabia, the holiest place of the Muslims, who are more than 1 billion people in the world today. For this and other acts of aggression and injustice, we have declared jihad against the U.S.
Is the jihad directed against the U.S. government or United States troops in Arabia? What about U.S. civilians in Arabia or the people of the United States?
We have focused our declaration of jihad on striking at the U.S. soldiers inside Arabia, the country of the two holy places, Mecca and Medina. In our religion, it is not permissible for any non-Muslim to stay in Arabia. Therefore, even though American civilians are not targeted in our plan, they must leave. We do not guarantee their safety.
When this guy delivers his statements attacking the U.S. presence or his call for jihad, he is justifying these actions in
Listen to this propaganda from 1997, mind control, getting you ready for the boogeyman, ladies and gentlemen, the boogeyman!
Supporting terrorist activities throughout the Middle East.
The U.S. today has set a double standard, calling whoever goes against its injustice a terrorist. It wants to occupy our countries, steal our resources, impose agents on us to rule us, and then wants us to agree to all this.
By the way, that is true, and again, this is what they do. He speaks truth, interestingly enough. Again, this is how it works, the COINTELPRO, the giving the truthful information, but now he's the bad guy, the boogeyman, so it's okay for them to, like, be tyrannical against what he's speaking of, because these Muslims or whatever, they're the enemy, like the SEAL movie that we have, that SEAL movie, Act of Valor. Oh yes, propaganda to the max. It's terrible. It really is terrible, and I played it on a show the other night. Maybe it was on Saturday on We Are Change Connecticut show. I'm not sure exactly, but I think actually it was on that show. But yes, I mean, that's what it's all about. These people are really not, it's all coming from this contrived, created world, this little like aquarium that everybody's living in. And everybody outside the aquarium they're the ones that are controlling it, including Osama, Tim Osman, Bin Laden.
If we refuse to do so, it says we are terrorists. When Palestinian children throw stones against the Israeli occupation, the U.S. says they are terrorists.
See how they do this?
Israel bombed the United Nations building in Lebanon while it was full of children and women. The U.S.
Because Israel are terrorists. I mean, they're speaking the truth. You see how it is, but they're demonizing the truth using Tim Osman.
Bin Laden's circumstantial ties to
Osama Tim Osman Bin Laden.
Mr. Bin Laden.
And this is 97, ladies and gentlemen. Please, wake up!
Clinton, what would that message be?
Mentioning the name of Clinton provokes disgust and revulsion. The president has a heart that knows no words, a heart that kills hundreds of children.
He's a scumbag. He is, and this is truth too.
Our people in Arabia will send him messages without words because he does not understand words. If there is
it's amazing. They're using this whole guy as like the boogeyman for the real true evil. It's unbelievable. Do you see it? Can you understand it? Can you get it?
But in Afghanistan, Bin Laden is beyond the reach of U.S. law enforcement. The country is dominated by the Taliban, a movement of religious students turned warriors who have imposed their harsh interpretation of Islam. The Taliban have recently declared that bin Laden is their guest, providing he does not attack other nations. But bin Laden...
The propaganda is good. You guys good. You guys are good there. Yeah, you got Americans. You know how to do it well.
You'll see them and hear about them in the media, God willing.
1998, 3 years before 9/11, former ABC News reporter and current member of the FBI, John Miller, sat down with bin Laden in Afghanistan for a very rare interview.
Osama bin Laden is well hidden and heavily...
Listen to this. This is unbelievable. This is what Bill was talking about.
A series of camps in the Afghan mountains, he has issued a series of fatwas, religious decrees signed by Muslim clerics that call for military jihad, holy war, against the United States.
We believe that the biggest thieves in the world are Americans, and the biggest terrorists on earth are the Americans. The only way for us to fend off these...
It's actually the British, but, you know, it's a good little ploy, you know, to, like, get everyone to hate him, you know, to hate Osama.
And civilians. They're all targets in this fatwa.
Bin Laden made his latest threats during our interview, but then just days later he issued a new fatwa promising more violence if U.S. troops are not removed from Saudi Arabia.
You will leave when the bodies of American soldiers and civilians are sent in the wooden boxes and coffins. That is when you will leave.
It may be easy to make such threats. A man on a hilltop backed by a few hundred mujahideen soldiers declaring war on the United States. But it's not a conventional war that he's threatening. Bin Laden is talking about terrorism. To find bin Laden, we had to travel to Pakistan, where eventually bin Laden's people made contact. We moved north through dusty towns to the Afghan border.
Sorry for that, by the way, but I was going to say, interestingly enough, what he had just said there, wouldn't it be interesting to say, hold on, let me get back there a little, just a second.
Terrorism. To find bin Laden, we had to...
Here.
Terrorism.
The wooden boxes and coffins. That is...
He's threatening, declaring war on the United States. But it's not a conventional war that he's threatening. Bin Laden is talking about terrorism.
Yes, bin Laden is talking about terrorism. That is what he's talking about. Again, the prequel. If you're writing a screenplay, you know, you have to foreshadow events. It works much like that. And they're foreshadowing events, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry for the digression.
To find bin Laden, we had to travel to Pakistan, where eventually bin Laden's people made contact. We moved north through dusty towns to the Afghan border. Just before sunset, bin Laden's people led us on foot through the mountains, and we crossed unseen into Afghanistan. 2 days later, at 1 in the morning, we met with bin Laden. Clearly, for our benefit, there was a little show of gunfire by his men to greet him. Vince Canestraro is a former CIA official and an ABC News consultant on terrorism and security matters.
Clearly, he is a role model for a lot of Islamic militants in the world today. I mean, his personal story is so compelling to them.
Bin Laden left his home in Saudi Arabia at the age of 19 to join the Muslims fighting the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. Like many of the young fighters, he was
recruited by the CIA. His name was Tim Osman. He was recruited. He was recruited, ladies and gentlemen. Zbigniew Brzezinski created Al-Qaeda. Wake up.
Religious and committed, unlike any other.
He certainly was.
He came from a Saudi family that ran a construction empire worth $5 billion.
And that empire was in bed with the Bush family. How nice is that? The Bush crime family! Wake the fuck up!
Bin Laden's personal worth is estimated at $200 million.
Yet he sacrifices all of that to take up what he believes is a religious duty, an obligation to expel the atheistic invaders of a Muslim country.
We must use punishment to keep your evil away from Muslims, Muslim women and children.
To understand bin Laden's hatred for America, you have to put the U.S. in the context it is seen by many Muslims.
Americans impose themselves on everyone who believes in his religion and his rights. They accuse our children in Palestine of being terrorists, those children who have no weapons and have not yet even reached maturity.
We asked bin Laden about Somalia. The United States referred to the military operation in Somalia as a rescue mission to prevent genocide by warring tribes. But bin Laden simply viewed it as another invasion of an Islamic country. American intelligence agencies believe it was bin Laden who dispatched his personal brigades with rocket launchers to shoot down U.S. helicopters.
Oh, it was definitely bin Laden. Absolutely. You starting to understand the picture now?
18 U.S. soldiers were killed. Bin Laden does not.
That's right. We kill our own soldiers. That's right. Unfortunately. God help us. We're fighting evil here, ladies and gentlemen.
Not deny he had a role and reveled in America's retreat from Somalia.
Our people realize more than before that the American soldier is a paper tiger that ran in defeat after a few blows. America forgot all about the hoopla and media propaganda and left dragging their corpses and their shameful defeat.
And in Saudi Arabia, another kind of warfare. In November 19...
By the way, those 19 box cutter guys, like 17 or 16 of them were from Saudi Arabia. Just for the record, by the way.
1995, a bomb exploded at the Saudi National Guard training center in Riyadh, killing 5 Americans. The bombers made videotape confessions saying they were inspired by bin Laden.
Absolutely, of course.
Great heroes and martyrs who followed the steps of the Prophet. Peace be upon him. We called and they answered.
In the spring of 1998, the CIA plan to snatch bin Laden moves forward with the tacit approval of the White House.
Yeah, after they do nothing with it's unbelievable. Anyway, this is just really sickening. But okay, we have 2 minutes to go. And there's a couple of minutes here on this, and you just got to hear this, and then we'll have Harry Link with Death to the New World Order here on TruthBroadcastNetwork.com, and we got to deal with Bill Clinton now. Oh my God.
May 20th. The CIA runs a full rehearsal with its local allies, Afghan militiamen opposed to bin Laden and the Taliban. The plan is for the militiamen to capture bin Laden and take him to a desert landing zone. From there, the Al-Qaeda leader would be flown out of the country. That very same week, inside a tent in a remote compound in southern Afghanistan, Osama bin Laden tapes an interview with ABC News correspondent John Miller. With the tape rolling,
of course,
he declares
John Miller. John Miller's everywhere.
We do not differentiate between those dressed in military uniforms and civilians. They're all targets in this fatwa.
Before agreeing to the interview, bin Laden insisted on knowing what questions he'll be asked and whether the program would be broadcast in prime time.
It was his coming out party as a terrorist leader. He needed to introduce himself to the United States through an American news medium.
Bin Laden's message is crystal clear. He demands that U.S. troops leave Saudi Arabia, where they have been stationed since the 1991 Gulf War.